And we are live. Welcome to Olivia's Stories, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Carla, age 37. I have been married to Thomas, age 41. My husband and I have had a boring marriage. We were good to each other because we treated each other as friends. There were times when we went about not seeing each other due to our busy schedules for days. There were never any arguments about anything in particular between us. I think us being busy was what kept our marriage without falling for the longest time. I was a nurse, and he was a salesman. We both had erratic work hours and schedules, which made it very hard for us to find time for each other. Having kids was a topic we both dreaded. Being a nurse for kids was more than enough for me to be scared of having kids of my own. I would encounter kids with all sorts of complications, which hardened my resolve not to have kids of my own. Thomas had been quite understanding about it, as he knew that having kids would add to the expense, and we were not ready to take up extra expenses. We both mutually agreed on not having any kids, which upset both of our folks. But it was what it was. We were content with our decision and focused on building a strong foundation for our relationship. We filled our lives with adventures, hobbies, and quality time together, cherishing the freedom and flexibility that not having children allowed us. Our friends and family eventually came to understand and respect our choice, realizing that happiness can be found in different ways for different people. Very soon it got boring and we started living our separate lives. In a few years we became distant, and then Thomas did something unexpected that changed our lives forever. Thomas and I had very busy work schedules, which led to us seeing each other less than we previously did. Thomas had to make enough sales to keep his job and also manage our mortgage. Due to COVID and its after effects, I would mostly be tired after coming home, so sex was out of the question. There were times we would go about 15 days or even a month without sex. I would feel guilty about not being able to do my duties as a wife, but then again, nothing can beat sleep deprivation. Our days together mostly consisted of Thomas convincing me to have sex and me telling him how hard I had worked all day and just wanted to rest in peace and quiet. It was the same thing again and again. It was as if even our off days had a routine of their own. It was not always like this, though. When we started dating, we were so madly in love with each other that I would sneak Thomas to one of our empty lab rooms and make out with him. I don't know what happened as the years passed. The spark was lost, and we mostly focused on our careers and less on each other. We became consumed by our professional ambitions, prioritizing work over our relationship. The constant hustle and bustle left little room for romance and intimacy, causing the initial passion to fade away. We were finally free to get some time together with each other when I had a few days off, and Thomas had a long weekend to himself without any sales. So we decided to live a little the way we did when we were dating. We made plans and went out with friends. We were drinking and talking nonsense. We had about 4 rounds of beer and were half drunk. As we were on the 5th round, Thomas said in front of everyone that it had been almost 2 months since we had sex, and he wasn't expecting to have sex for at least a year at the rate we were going. Everyone started laughing, including me. But deep down, I was angry at how he could reveal such intimate information in front of all our friends. We were trying to mend our relationship, but Thomas and his loud mouth were not helping at all. I decided that this cannot go unpunished. I definitely did not want him to spill any more bedroom secrets in the future. I knew I had to address the issue privately with Thomas, expressing my discomfort and setting boundaries regarding our personal matters. It was important for us to establish a mutual understanding and respect each other's privacy, ensuring that our intimate details remained between us. We went home, and as usual, he tried to have sex with me. I pushed him away and told him that he was not going to get any sex at least for a year from now, just like he had predicted. He tried to reason with me, but I pushed him away and went to bed. He was too tired and drunk, so he went to sleep immediately. I was on leave for the next few days, and every day, he tried to convince me to have sex with him. I did feel bad, but every time I was about to agree, I would remember what he did at the club. This instantly angered me, and I would give a vague excuse to get myself out of the situation. This went on for 3 days that I was on leave. On the 4th day, he came in and walked directly to the bedroom. I was startled by his sudden intrusion and immediately sat up in bed, demanding to know what he was doing. His expression was filled with remorse as he apologized for his past behavior and admitted that he had been seeking forgiveness. I was determined to teach him a lesson so that he does not repeat the same mistake again. It was strange that he did not even greet me. He showered and got ready. He smelled really nice, but I did not want to give in to the temptation. He asked me how he looked, to which I replied that he looked swoon-worthy, but he was still not going to get any sex. He smiled and said that he got it covered. I assumed that he might have worked hard to sweep me off my feet and apologize. I decided to get myself ready and be presentable when it happened. I showered and wore my best-looking dress, which enhanced my features. He looked puzzled at my sudden enthusiasm. I decided to act as if I had my own stuff to do to keep up the shock value. I was almost ready when the doorbell rang and he rushed to open the door. There was a woman at the door, looking incredibly hot, who winked at him. He took her straight to our room and closed the door behind them. My heart sank as I stood there, feeling a mix of betrayal and disappointment. It became clear that his apology was never going to come, and I realized that I deserved someone who would truly sweep me off my feet and value my presence. I followed them and saw that the room was not locked. I knocked, but there was no answer, so I decided to barge in. I had to know what was going on in my house. I saw him shirtless, and the woman who walked in was taking her dress off. I asked him what all this was, and he said, like he mentioned, he got everything covered. He was fine, that I did not want to have sex, as he now realized that he did not need me to have sex. He found this really interesting proposal and met this woman who was willing to be his companion tonight. I was taken aback by his nonchalant way of telling me all this, as if it was all such a common occurrence. He did not even care about how I would feel about all this. He said that he had things to do, and if I did not mind, closed the door while leaving them alone. They continued undressing, and I did not know what to do, so I closed the door and went into the guest bedroom. I couldn't sleep the entire night as I could hear sounds and whispers from our bedroom. I tried to put my ear to the wall to listen to what they were up to. I don't know if he was really enjoying himself or just moaning too loudly to make me jealous. Maybe it was all just an act and nothing was actually happening there. I couldn't be sure until I saw it for myself. He came to the dinner table in the morning to get his coffee. I was already sitting there waiting for him as his companion had left about an hour ago. I had been waiting for the past hour, dreading to go to the bedroom as I was not ready to witness him naked after spending a night with another woman. He came and kissed me on my forehead as if nothing happened. He smiled at me and said that he had a wonderful time last night and asked me if I had a good sleep. Really, was he being serious right now? How could he even ask me that after almost causing me to have a mental breakdown? I just kept staring at him in disbelief, looking at him being so casual about it. There was no guilt or shame that he felt after what he did last night. He got ready as usual and went to work as if it was normal to sleep with another woman in the bedroom when your wife is right in front of you. I went to work but obviously could not focus on what I was doing. My job required me to be present more than 100% as people's lives depended on my actions. I decided to leave early and brainstorm a little on how to handle this issue with my husband. There was no use staying at the hospital when my mind was running all over, which could lead to serious blunders from my end. I went home and started thinking of where it all went wrong, that he had to take such a step and not even feel guilty about it. The more I thought, the more it became clearer about the night at the club where it all started. I recalled how he had been distant and unresponsive that night, spending most of his time engrossed in conversation with a mysterious woman. It was then that I realized the potential catalyst for his actions. Perhaps there was more to this situation than met the eye. As I delved deeper into my thoughts, I couldn't help but wonder if there were underlying issues in our relationship that we had failed to address. I decided to make up for it and apologize to Thomas for not bothering about his feelings for so long. No one other than me had any right to sleep with my husband. I prepared the bed and the bathroom to make it smell romantic. I lit candles and played soft music to enhance the romantic mood. I waited for Thomas to come home to the surprise. The doorbell rang and I checked myself in the mirror before opening the door. There he was, half drunk and with a new woman. He just pushed me aside and made his way to the bedroom with her. They went in and locked the door. The next morning, Thomas came and kissed me. He even thanked me for understanding his needs and decorating the bedroom for him and his friend last night. My mouth was wide open at his way of processing things. I was not doing all of that for him to sleep with a random woman. I think he knew me well enough to not come to such a stupid conclusion. Was he just trying to push me farther away by doing all of this? I did not really understand why he had to behave this way. And tonight I had decided that it would be a battle to regain my control over Thomas. He was my husband, and there was no way I would let things slip out of my hand. He wants sex, so sex is what he would get, but from me and not from anyone else. I was fully prepared for Thomas to show up and give him an ultimatum for his actions. I waited and slept on the couch itself. He never showed up. I woke up at 6 a.m. and gave him a call. He picked it up and I could tell that he was completely out of it. I was asking him where he was and if I should come pick him up. I could hear faint voices of a girl beside him. I tried to ask random things just to listen to the person beside him. He told me that he was fine and would be home for lunch. Before he hung up, I could make out that the person beside him was Karen, who was one of our mutual friends and who always had eyes for Thomas. I was devastated knowing that now he had started sleeping around with friends. How could he not think of what people would talk about us once all of this came to light? Was he so desperate for sex that he would be ready to sleep around with any person who shows even a tiny bit of interest in him? And how could Karen do such a thing? She was my friend after all. Even if Thomas was the one who suggested it, could she not have the sense to deny it? I couldn't jump to conclusions just by a few whispers. I decided to drive to Karen's house to confirm it. On my way, I kept praying for it not to be true. I had scenarios running in my head about it being true and imagining them making out. I shook my head and tried to focus on the road. I reached, and there in the corner was Thomas's car. Without thinking, I went and rang the bell. Karen opened it, and I could tell by her expression that I was the last person she wanted to see. I went inside without a word and saw Thomas sleeping in her bed with barely any clothes. Anger is not even the word that could describe what I was feeling. I snatched away the quilt and pushed Thomas to wake up. He got up with a start and looked at me. He hugged me and was going back to sleep when I asked him to see where he was. He opened his eyes and looked at Karen and then at me. He looked at the condition he was in and understood what must have happened last night. He told me that he never knew Karen was so good at sex. I mean, really? I started throwing things at him, which he dodged successfully. He stopped me and asked me what was wrong. Could he not know what was wrong? I was not his girlfriend anymore for him to toy around with me. I demanded an explanation, and he said that he understands my point of not always being available for sex, and he respects it. He doesn't want to burden me with it, so he found a solution. This helps him with his sexual needs and does not even put pressure on me for having sex with him. According to him, it was a win-win situation for the both of us. He told me to calm down and think about it. I was fuming with anger and told him that he could enjoy all the sex he wants to with Karen or any other woman because I don't care anymore. I was done putting up with his nonsense and now I didn't want to carry on with it. I gave Karen a disappointing look and walked out of the door, slamming it shut. I sat in my car and started crying. How could my life turn out this way? Thomas was the most responsible and loyal person I had known. How could he sleep with so many women and not even feel sorry about it? I was lost for words. I am writing all this sitting in my car, as I don't think I am in the right frame of mind to drive my car. All of the good times that I had with Thomas keep flashing in front of my eyes, as I am still in denial regarding the treatment Thomas is letting me go through. I would request you to give me suggestions on how to get my life back on track after such a fiasco. Update. Here is an update to what has happened ever since Thomas has been getting every random girl home whenever I was free. I left the house that I shared with Thomas, just like a few of you suggested. I started focusing on myself and living my life the way I wanted to. I went out with my friends over the weekend to a club and saw Thomas kissing a girl not older than 21 on the dance floor. It was very awkward for both me and my friends to see Thomas this way. I thought he would ignore us, but he came to us and sat with us. He even joked about finding other avenues if you are not happy with your partner and not feel guilty about it. I was sitting right there, so how could he openly say things like that? I was done being patient and decided to hit the dance floor. I scouted a young guy myself and started dancing with him. I got close to the young guy to show Thomas that he was not the only one who was capable of doing all of this. It was like we were competing against each other to show that we didn't care. We could see the jealousy in each other's body language, but denied that we wanted to be together. The entire night we tried too hard to irk each other and show that we could live happily without each other's support. The next day I got up with a throbbing headache. I had way too many drinks. I recollected last night's events and saw a spark of anger in Thomas's eyes when I was dancing with another guy. He did care about who I was with. It was just that he was angry and wanted me to acknowledge it. I sure as hell was not happy seeing Thomas with anyone else. We were living separately, and we both knew that it was all temporary. We had been married to each other for 15 years and knew that by now we kind of developed a bond that we couldn't share with anyone else. Even though I had been living separately, never once did the thought of divorce cross my mind. I knew how to make things right. I decided to have a heart-to-heart conversation with Thomas about it. I told him that I truly loved him and would do anything to make sure that he stops behaving this way towards me. I even agreed to have an open marriage with him if he is suffering so much without sex that I have not been able to provide. I know you guys are going to judge me for opening my marriage and all that. Trust me. It does not make me happy, but I guess this is the only way I would be able to keep Thomas by my side. There is nothing else I can think of that can save my marriage. Many of you might be disappointed by my decision, but this is the only way out as I see it. Update. It has been a week since I decided to forget everything Thomas had done in order to spite me. We have started afresh and things have been very smooth between us. I must say that the once-in-a-while appearance of a new face in the bedroom is an idea that I am still not used to, but it was not as bad as I thought. I am actually glad about the idea of an open marriage, as it takes off the pressure of having sex with Thomas when I don't want to. The best part is that he gets a girl, they have sex, and she leaves. There is no emotional dependence or any drama that I would have to deal with. It is better than Thomas having an affair and asking me for a divorce. Right now, I am truly happy in my marriage, where I have the controls and I can make it work in my favor. Thomas and I mutually decided on the girl that he could bring home, and I would have my alone time that day with myself. The next morning would be just me and Thomas together working as a team to better our marriage. I wish we could have done this sooner so that we would have had a much more beautiful marriage all this while. I know that most of you might be disappointed by my decision to stay with Thomas, even after sleeping around with so many women. I should have separated and found a better man, but trust me, it is better to live with the devil you know than go searching for a new unknown one. As long as Thomas sticks to his promise of only sex and no emotional connection with all of his companions, I think it would all be okay. I know for a fact that no other woman would be able to put up with Thomas and his weird demands if they would have to live with him. I guess that is how I am going to proceed with my marriage going forward. I take a keen interest in choosing the girl that Thomas would be having fun with, and gives me enough control on the situation. This also sends a message to the women that I am willing with all of this, and Thomas would do things only by taking my approval. Even I would have fun once in a while with a man of my choice after seeking Thomas's approval. It was only right if both of us reaped the benefits of this open marriage. This has opened a new avenue of happiness which does not require us to feel pressured or burdened to keep each other happy. We could delegate the sex part to others, and when we needed to have a heartfelt conversation, we always had each other to fall back on. We were enjoying this phase of our lives, which helped us focus both on our careers and also on things that needed focusing. I thank all of you for being a part of my journey from a disastrous marriage to a successful one. I would not have been able to keep sane and do all of this without your opinions and suggestions. Thank you so much for sticking with me all this time and making sure that I make the right decisions. I would suggest anyone going through a rough patch in their marriage, especially due to sexual issues, to give open marriage a go. I understand that it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it might just be the right thing to improve your marriage. If the sole problem is time for sex, then definitely try it out and see how it goes. The disclaimer is to make sure that there is no emotional involvement whatsoever to make sure that you always have an upper hand.